Hi all, and in this video we're going to cover all things hedging, so let's get started. So firstly, when it comes to hedging, there's two options available. You can go with an evergreen hedge or a deciduous hedge, so let's weigh up the options. We'll start with the evergreen first. Personally, my preference is Taxus baccata. That would be the common yew. I actually put one of these hedges in earlier on in the season, and it's hopefully over time going to reach the same height as my log wall. Obviously my socials are called yew cottage. I have a yew tree here on the premises, and I just want to link in with that theme. But other options of evergreen hedging available is Prunus lusitanica, which is the Portuguese laurel, which also comes with a lovely dark emerald leaf. Or if you live somewhere coastal, you can go with Gracillinea, or you can go with Escallonia. Personally, the common cherry laurel hedge is absolutely not my favourite, and I would discourage you from buying it if you can. There seems to be this obsession, and I don't know if it's a regional thing, but people seem to love it. They go absolutely mad for it. They feel that they really need it in their life, and honestly, there's so many better hedging options out there. There's nothing wrong with the plant, but what I would say is people tend to plant it and then the leaves go yellow, and it's usually because the ground is getting too much moisture, or moisture can't get away. And that's just something I would consider before you pick any hedging option, is look at your drainage available. If you have a poorly drained site, you might then want to reconsider your hedging options. Another good evergreen hedge as well is holly. Holly gives you a really lush dark green evergreen leaf, and there's loads of varieties of holly out there, so you could go for a berried type or a foliage type. And that's really good as well because it's prickly. If maybe you're trying to create a boundary between yourself and you're in a rural setting and maybe some agricultural land, it just keeps animals at that side and you on this side, so that's an option. Okay, so let's look at deciduous hedges. Now, straight off the bat, and I used to work in a garden centre, I used to try and push deciduous hedges all the time. I love deciduous hedges, and I actually have a Hedges hedge here myself, and that just is the common beech. So I have a wraparound beech hedge that goes right from this pillar here on my left, and it goes right round to the other side of the property and just screens in the pond. But other hedging options available that are deciduous could be something like Carpinus. Now, Carpinus is just a fancy name for hornbeam, and Carpinus and beech do look quite similar, and you're maybe wondering what the difference is. Personally, Carpinus I feel does have a nicer leaf, and in the winter months I think personally it's like more twisty, and it sort of gives you more structural interest with stems, but generally speaking they do look quite similar. And then you get things like your hawthorn hedges, which are also a deciduous type of hedge. So yeah, straight off the bat, people will screw their nose up at a deciduous hedge. As I mentioned, I used to work in a garden centre, and I would just show this to people and they're like, no, we don't want deciduous, we really value our privacy. Okay, well, think about it. We're coming into the darker evenings, we're coming into the colder season, and when does a deciduous hedge drop its leaf? It drops it in the winter. Are you actually going to be in your garden space at that time? No, not really. Daylight hours are falling, so chances are it's going to be darker quicker, and you're going to be in the house anyway, and most likely you'll have your curtains pulled or your blinds down. So again, do you need privacy at that time? No, not really. And thirdly, as I mentioned, Hedges, the beech hedge, which I have here, and Carpinus are deciduous hedges, yes, but they tend to hold their leaf throughout the winter, so that gives you a really lovely kind of colour variation from kind of October right through into the winter, where you go from a green leaf in the summer, and then you get like a lovely coppery tone then in the winter, and then it's actually the new season's growth the following spring that will push the old leaf off. Why would you not want that seasonality in a garden? And you're not going to get that with an evergreen hedge. I'm just saying. But anyway, weigh it up and see what you think. So let's talk cost. At this time of the year, there's 3 different ways you can buy hedging. You can buy what's called bare root, which is essentially just a twig with a bit of root on the bottom. It kind of is what it suggests. And bare root is the most cost-effective way to do a hedge, especially if you have meters and meters and meters to do. And you're putting this in basically in a dormant format. So you can do this between October to March, and you really are pushing it by April, but October to March would be your window. So as long as the ground is not frozen, this is the best time to do it. You can buy these for a couple of pence. If you prepare your ground well and you have like a big trench of earth, you can just put them on with a crowbar, and you can do it effectively quickly. You don't really have to be thinking about it too much. You don't really have to be too heavily engaged. The plant is dormant at this point anyway, so it's going to sit all winter. It's not going to do that much. It's going to get all that moisture from snow and frost and just general rain, and it's already watered in, so by next season, next summer, your hedge is ready to go. So there's not much work to do there. Maybe allow yourself 15% extra than what you think you need, just to allow that some might not tick. So that would be one thing to consider with bare root, is they might not all tick. So the next option then would be root ball. You'll find root ball is basically just a big piece of earth around the plant itself, so it's all the roots intact, and usually you'll buy this wrapped in hessian or maybe a form of plastic. Again, you prepare your earth. The hedging at this point is in much larger modular units, and you're putting it in, so you'll not need as many bare root plants as you would if you were doing it bare root, but maybe, you know, still maybe allow yourself 5% extra than what maybe you would think you would need for your distance, and you put them in, and generally speaking you give them a wee bit of spacing. Again, you'll do it in that time frame between October and March, provided the ground's not frozen, and yeah, they'll get watered in throughout that winter period. They're not going to do that much. They'll have settled in, they'll anchor nicely, and then come the following summer they'll take off. And then lastly, and this is probably the more expensive option then, is buying your hedging in a plastic pot. So the way you would buy any plant in a garden centre. So it comes with its root ball in structure. It is already pre-rooted for you, so you know it's a successfully ticking plant. And yeah, if you know your distance, you can work out mathematically probably how many you need. They usually would say 3 plants to the metre, and that's usually, when I say that, they probably mean like 3 litre pot size plants to the metre. And it's always good to plant in a W formation if you're doing your straight line, that you sort of plant in a W format, and that just means over time that it staggers the distance. But if you're trying to do a slightly wider hedge, you know, you can plant in a straight line if you just want a more narrow hedge, but if you're wanting a slightly chunkier hedge, if you plant in that W formation, it kind of fills out nicely over time. It looks a wee bit staggery at the start, but generally speaking, within a year and a half, 2 years, it all synchronises together. If you're buying your hedging in a pot formation, you're not restricted to that time period of October to March, generally speaking, but what I would say is it's always far better still to do it within that time frame anyway. It's going to naturalise into its environment, it'll anchor in really well, you'll not have to water it in. The biggest stress and the biggest mistake that people make is they put hedges in the spring or midsummer. You're forever watering them, you're trying to get them anchored in, the plant is in active growth, and generally speaking you have that root disturbance of you taking the pot off, trying to put it into the ground, and you're trying to get it to tick, but also you'll not have the luxury spring, summer to the following October of being able to buy bare root or root ball, so you'll only be buying your hedging then in that container format, which will work out more expensive. Again, it will depend on the plant as well that you're buying, but that's just a heads up. I hope that gives you a better understanding of all things hedging. If you have any questions, please drop me a message. I'll try and answer as best I can, and as always, thank you for supporting my channel. Thank you for watching. Bye.